A furlong to go. FNX and Samrat, New York bred, still 1-2. Move Tahiti's gone to the inside. It is FNX in front. Samrat is running a big one, keeps on fighting. FNX and Samrat come down to the line. FNX and Samrat. FNX in the Suburban.
Bobby Shoemaker, Andrew Calvano. It's Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge Review Edition. We're going to talk about the 4 races that we broke down on Friday's show and give you our thoughts on the winner and how we thought the race played out. So, Andrew, without wasting any time here, let's go right into race 8. It's the Grade 1 Belmont Derby. It's a mile and a quarter on the inner turf. My selection was Air Force. Your selection was Beach Patrol. I thought that both your horse and my horse was going to be on the front end. And when I saw the first 2 fractions of this race, and it was 50 and change, and they were second to last and third to last, it left me scratching my head. Your thoughts on how the race shape played out?
Yeah, I definitely think we didn't get the pace we were hoping for or thinking about, and not just Air Force and Beach Patrol. Also thought Long Island Sound would be a little bit closer to the front end than where he was, and I guess he really wasn't the better of the 2 Aidan O'Brien horses. As we see, the winner came out of that barn as well. But very surprised by both Air Force and Beach Patrol. These are horses that the most success has come on the front end and just nowhere near whatsoever. I mean, I'll give Beach Patrol the benefit of the doubt that showed a lot of heart closing late to get up for 3rd place, but I think would have just been so much better off had he been near the front end, especially with Castellano, who's a great front end rider. So just overall, a very confusing pace setup for us.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, Andrew, I think that there's a lot of people out there that could argue that Beach Patrol was the best horse in that race. I mean, to be where he was early in most of that race and to try to overcome the pace that was very slow and for him to finish 3rd, I think you could argue that horse could have won the race if he had been on or near the lead, and he certainly was second best at worst. A lot of credit to Dalville, but look, my problem with Dalville was not his talent. I just thought this pace would be hotter, and he was drawing the 13 hole on the inner turf. For him to get this, for him to be second place after they go 50, drawing the 13 post on the inner turf, I never would have saw that. If I thought that was going to take place, I would have certainly put the 13 in my pick 4, would have talked about him more on the show. I just can't believe how that race was run. It's one of the most surprising pace setups on a turf race of this magnitude that I've seen in quite some time.
Without a doubt, and watching the race replay, Duville really got out there and was really pressed out hard. So that might have been, the game plan there for me. O'Brien saying, listen, if we don't get a good break here, we're going to be out of this race from the very beginning. And they sent him out right away. So Spencer aboard, let him get out there and let him do his thing. And, he had a lot of heart going. And, Beach Patrol. And I talked about Highland Sky a little bit as well. And I included him in every pick 4 I had. So he really would have saved me. I only had Duville on 2 out of, I think, my 6 pick 4s. But Highland Sky showed much more, and that's definitely a horse I want coming out of there. I'm not sure if Duville is going to go back to Europe or if he's going to stick around, do some Saratoga racing, and then come back for Breeders' Cup, whatever it may be. But I think Highland Sky is definitely going to be a horse you're going to want to watch out for coming up to Saratoga meet.
Is he the horse that you want the most coming out of here? Because for me, it's Beach Patrol.
Yeah, and I'm going to take Beach Patrol out of there as well. But I guess, if Chad Brown doesn't want him as a front-end horse, and now Beach Patrol's a horse that's going to learn to rate, he's going to learn to come out of the back, I guess we're going to see some new game plans out of him. But both second-place finishers and third-place finishers, though you can say at almost every race there ever is, I'll take these 2 horses behind a winner like Duville. But Highland Sky and Beach Patrol, very much to be respected here. And should the winner go back to Europe before the Breeders' Cup, those are 2 horses you're going to want to have, especially Highland Sky's late kick.
I completely agree with you. I just thought Beach Patrol was so impressive, but Howland Sky is certainly better than what I gave him credit for. So let's move on to race 9, and certainly the race that put a smile on my face. It was the Grade 2 Suburban. I thought the scratch, Andrew, of my initial selection of Noble Bird was very crucial in this race. I thought it put my favorite horse in the entire world, FNX, on the front end. Didn't think Samrat would be that close, but boy, he ran just a whale of a race. FNX ends up getting it done. I don't think he's ever lost a photo in his career. Such a valiant horse, a horse that I think is a classic contender. On his best day, I think he can certainly contend with the California Chromes of the world. I think, obviously, he proved he can throw out that race at Churchill Downs. Your thoughts on FNX, your thoughts on the race?
Yeah, and, looking at the original race with the including Noble Bird, I didn't really think FNX would get it from a pace setup, but Bobby, once Noble Bird scratched in the morning, I knew FNX would be a much bigger player, at least in my eyes, because he already was one to begin. So, hats off to you, Bob, for the FNX call. I know that killed me down the road there. My selection, Luke DeHege, looked like he had a lot of horse coming down late, and if you saw, Irad seemed to have the farthest path on the track, and it looked like the horse could do some running, but he ducks him into the inside, and he still looks game on the rail. But, I mean, that was just questionable to me. But then again, I'm not Ira Ortiz. I don't really question one of the best jockeys in the world. But I think Luke DeHege coming out of that race might have a little bit more, especially second back in America for Kier McLaughlin. Shaman Ghost was another one of my selections that did not show me much and really was nowhere near. I thought when Noble Bird was going to scratch that this horse was going to go out with FNX, but that wasn't the case. So a couple head scratchers in this race, but FNX was 100% the horse in that race, and definitely a horse, like you said, Bob, can compete with these horses of Melatonin and California Chrome come Classic Day.
I thought Mutahij, I thought he was very good. He was better than I thought. And I'm with you on the move to the inside. I heard Andy Serling say after the race he didn't understand why he put the horse on the rail when it was clearly a dead rail. So I bring that up to say this. I know you're very high on FNX. I mean, he's a warrior. I mean, he's certainly exceeded expectations, over $3 million in earnings for a state bred. It's unbelievable. Do you want Mutahij more than FNX out of this race?
From a value perspective, yes, because I know FNX will obviously be well bet in each race that he moves on in, and obviously deservingly so. The horse is a hell of a racehorse. But Mutahij, I feel like we can get a little bit more value, and I think there was a lot of excuses in the first time back in North America from Maidan in this race, ducking into that rail, which was a dead rail that day. So a couple biases you can overlap and just go forward with. So hopefully we get him at a solid price next out if people don't realize the dead rail situation.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He was better than I thought, and I'm not sure the outcome would have been the same if he hadn't switched past. All right, race 10. Belmont Oaks, Grade 1. Catch a glimpse, Andrew. My goodness, she is as advertised, faster than the boys in race 8. She's unbelievable, and I want to see her against Tepin at some point. She switched leads fine this time. She wasn't corky down the lane. She was very professional, and if she can get that figured out, she's an elite racehorse.
Without a doubt, Bob. We're talking about Catch a Glimpse here, who's now won 8 turf races in a row. And we said on the show that Catch a Glimpse is 100% the horse to beat. There's nothing to knock on her, and she really showed that. And I was on Time and Motion underneath, and I caught the exact, I went Catch a Glimpse, Time and Motion, all. So I hit the trifecta a couple times, but once Catch a Glimpse broke out from the outside, like I mentioned, it shouldn't really be a problem because she's done so before from breaking from the outside. She got to that outside post, got right to the lead, and that was it. And she said, as always, come catch me if you can, and nobody was able to do it. Yeah,
she's very brilliant, Andrew. I just I can't even fathom what they thought when they were getting this racehorse initially. And, they put her on the slot the first time, and she didn't run well. But ever since, she's been great. I want to ask you this. Obviously, the race speaks for itself. From a two-turn turf perspective, males, females at any age, where do you rate this horse? Obviously, Tepin's number 1 and deservedly so. Do you put her 2? She's just so special.
To be honest, I think so. I think with the with the upside that the Cassie barn has been bringing out these last couple months on the turf, I think 1-2 Cassie has the best two-turn horse races in the country, and the record goes to show it. It's not that Catch a Glimpse is racing restricted state breds or something like that. She's facing open company. She's beating the boys. She runs in Grade 1 races. She wins here and there. She's a Breeders' Cup race, and she's only 3 years old. So we'll see how the end of her 3-year-old career ends here and how she will compete if she does go on to the 4-year-old season. But nonetheless, her and Teppan are 1-2 for sure.
And something I would like to point out to the viewers here, this horse is not just a one-trick pony. I mean, she just doesn't need the lead. I mean, let's go back to the Churchill Downs race that we talked about on Friday's show. I mean, she was on the lead per se, but she had another horse to the inside of her. And they even let that horse go a little bit, Andrew, before they asked her to run, and she was wide. I mean, I cannot speak to you enough of how impressed I am with this horse. And finally, it took me 8 wins, 8 losses, because I picked against her every time, to really be all in. This horse is special, and in my opinion, I think she's got a chance to be historically special. Yeah,
without a doubt, and obviously hindsight's 20/20, and we can say whatever. But I was very surprised she floated up to 3-1. I was very shocked. I understand that there were reasons. She was on the outside. This was arguably the toughest race that she's faced at least this year. Time and motion was getting bad. And don't get me wrong, there were some other great horses in this race, but 3-1 on Catch a Glimpse. Unfortunately, I was at the Mets game, so I just caught the replay at the end. But had I known I was sitting there, probably would have been a nice win bet. Just for what, in my opinion, would have been an overlay there. I thought this horse was going off 8-5.
Yeah, I thought she'd be 6-5 because she's an American horse and had done what she had done. I just think the 7 horse took a lot more money than we probably thought, and understandably so. Yeah. But she's the real deal, Andrew. So let's move on to the last race, and that was the Grade 3 Belmont Sprint. I was on marking, and Andrew, another race that leaves me scratching my head in reference to a ride. Marking was so wide throughout the entire race. I thought AP Indian by Joe Bravo, ridden by Joe Bravo, got an unbelievable ride, and it's a no-brainer here. The closest distance to the finish line, you put yourself in an advantage, and that was the case with AP Indian. I'll tell you right now, though, Marking's the best horse in that field. If they run that race 10 times, I think he wins at 8. He just was so wide and covered so much more ground. And for him to still almost win that race, I take nothing away from Marking there. I still feel the same way about him today as I did on Friday.
Without a doubt. And, with the scratch of Anchored Down, we saw the performance. Private Zone came in, and we were talking about the race, saying there's a lot of pace in this race. We don't know if Private Zone is really, a real 2-1, went off 6-5, obviously, with the scratches. But I wasn't really high on the horse, Bob. You were really high on the horse. And we had a couple scratches in here, which was very confusing. To begin with, I thought AP Indian would be on the lead. So to see the versatility and her winning, him winning off the pace like that. But like you said, when they came down the top of the stretch in Private Zone, you could see him drifted. Marking was already pretty wide himself. That left the rail open for AP Indian. And it really wasn't so much the rail as it was like the 2 or 3 path. So like you said, Bob, AP Indian really got a dream trip. And I would be reluctant later on, should AP Indian be a short price just because of the dream trip facing, much better horses. And like you said, if that race is ran 10 times, I would agree with you. I would say Marking wins 9 of those races.
Yeah.
Marking was much the horse to beat there. Just really couldn't put the neck down to get to the photo, lose by half a length. But I think 100% you're going to want Marking out of that race. And my top selection in that race, Joking, was scratched, and with the scratch of Anchored Down, it became an all race for me because I didn't want to have to pick and choose, but upsetting there for sure. But once Joking scratched, I was on Marking 100% because at that point, that was the horse to beat, in my opinion, because I knew Private Zone wouldn't run a good race.
What do you think Marking goes from here as far as what type of race he's in? Is it sprint race? Look, I think the horse can stretch out and win races. I mean, I think he's a very good racehorse. Do you think the sprint distance is his strength, or do you think that this is a horse that can go to Saratoga and win 1 mile graded stakes races?
I really think he's bouncing between these 7 furlong and 8 furlong races. To be honest, I don't see him so much as a two-turn horse, but I can see him at a flat mile and the long sprint, the 7 furlong, which like we talked about, it's not just a sprint race. And obviously, you see the statistics when you're looking at the form. Trainers going around the sprint and how the 7 furlong race is a very peculiar race. So I think he stays there. I think he stays at the 1 mile, but I wouldn't go beyond that. But then again, I'm not Kieran McLaughlin. I'm not Godolphin. And obviously, they have better intentions for the horse, but we'll see. But if it was my opinion, I would have to say leave him here at the 7 furlong in the mile distance going forward.
Going to put you on the spot before we end this segment. Of all the 4 races that we've just discussed, what's the horse outside of Catch a Glimpse do you want the most going forward that you think will make a name for him or herself throughout the rest of 2016?
I mean, off the bat, it's got to be, are we talking about that particular race or the 4 races in general?
All 4 races, any horse, name it, besides Catch a Glimpse.
To be honest, probably Marking. I think it's him. I honestly think he should have won that race to begin with. So you have a horse that, if I'm looking back into PPs, later on, and I'm watching the replays, I'm making notes. I say this horse won that race.
Yes.
If it wasn't for the dream trip of another horse, and this horse being a little bit far wide, this horse wins the race by 2 lengths.
I agree.
Now, if you get an overlay on a horse like Marking, I mean, you got to take it there. 100%. So Marking would be my horse going forward, and I'm sure, Bobby, it's yours as well.
It is mine, but I knew you were going to say that horse because it's the right selection. I'll give you Beach Patrol. I saw a lot of people yesterday on Twitter saying Beach Patrol was done after that race, and I'm thinking to myself, what race were they watching? This horse is good, but I'm with you in reference to Chad Brown needs to put this horse back on the front end where he's good. That's his strength. If they do that and they have this horse from a tactical standpoint on the front end, he's as good as any turf horse in the country other than Catch a Glimpse and Tepper. So.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And to comment on the Beach Patrol statement, because you and I have been pretty high on the horse ourselves, and I mean, you look at who he's losing to. He lost to Catch a Glimpse. He lost to Camelot Kitten, who ran a very good race at Churchill Downs, whether Beach Patrol should have won it, whatever it may be. And then loses to for lack of a better term, an unknown Aidan O'Brien, who's a great 2 place in Europe. And that horse, what's stopping that horse from coming back here? And I'm sorry, what's Aidan O'Brien's record at the Breeders' Cup? So if that horse goes on to win the Breeders' Cup, how could you knock a horse like Beach Patrol? This is a horse that can only get better, especially in the Chad Brown barn. And if Castellano's going to stick on him, thank you. Give me 12-1 every time. I'll take 12-1 on a horse, and whether he finishes 3rd or 1st, whatever it may be, I know the horse has the ability to win. So give me 12-1 5 more times. I guarantee if it's the 5th time, that's the time I had it the most.
Thank you. I agree. That'll do it. We'll see you on Friday. Andrew Calvano, Bobby Shoemaker, Tournament Edge. Good luck.
Good luck, guys.